Hey guys, so this is going to be a very impromptu rant because I literally just finished watching the episode and I was very frustrated, and so I wanted to speak about it. So I was catching up on season 3 of the originals because I'm tacky like that. And just as a quick summary, this season the biggest conflict has been the issue of the sire line. The mythology, as said, is that every single vampire is tied to one of the original vampires, including Klaus, who's the main character, and his brother Elijah. And there's a society called the Strix, which is basically Elijah's talented 10th vampire inner circle that he created. And many years ago, when he first created this group of vampires, he was the leader of them. But then Michael came, fucked up all his shit, and they were like, we gotta dip. So his girl at the time, Arya, who's one of the leader of the Strix, it was originally held by somebody else, but just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to say she's the leader right now. She was his girl, and he left her when Michael came a-coming, and she was noticeably upset by being left behind by the person that she loved and trusted, and over the years has been very resentful of that. So what has happened is that there was a prophecy that was saying that all of the originals would be killed. And so the Strix wanted to find a way to break the sire line so that they wouldn't be killed. And maybe get rid of Klaus's sire line in the process. Arya worked with Davina to find a spell that would help release them from the sire line. And it only worked on Klaus because Elijah got jimmied out of the magic pool of whatever the fuck. And Arya had a moment with Elijah where she was basically saying, like, you left me behind, you fucked me over, and I'm eternally tied to you. Of course I want to get away from you. It was honestly a very good and a very emotional scene for the character and the relationship with Elijah, and I honestly very much enjoyed it. And he was going to shoot her, but he didn't, and in the end she was killed by Haley. So here's the thing. I spoke about the whole token situation with the originals in my token video from the Black History Month series, and I talked about how the only one we have on the originals is Marcel. There's also Vince, but he's mostly there to be Camille's backup now that he's free of being the black body puppet that he was in season 2. So right now we only have Marcel. And Elijah specifically, right? So throughout the series, including the Vampire Diaries, he has had 5 love interests. The 3 Petrovas, I'm counting Elena, Catherine, and I think Talia is the name of the first one. Who gives a shit, really? Them as one, because there's really no reason why he loves all 3 of them, because they look all the same. Then there's Haley, who's been his long-term love interest between the 3 seasons. And then there was Selene, who was the big bad in season 1, one of the big bads. There was Gia, who was killed in season 2. And we had Arya, who came in this season and was his love interest from the past. And they clearly still had feelings for each other in a lot of ways that were unresolved. And of the 5 love interests, 3 of them were women of color, and they are all dead. Meanwhile, Elena is only gone because Nina Dobrev was like, fuck this shit, I'm done, and that relationship had already been there, done that, gone forever. Talia is a plot device for the whole original mythology. I don't really think that she actually matters, but she's a part of the backstory to see about how Elijah has a bloodlust. Catherine, again, plot device. But the 3 women of color that he's been with, they all have died. They were all killed off because of basically the mistakes that he and his brother made. Meanwhile, Haley has been allowed to remain this love interest that he can't be with because she's married to Jackson. All kinds of bullshit. But she gets to endure and be this great symbol of this love and passion he has for her. Meanwhile, every single woman of color that he has been with in a romantic relationship is dead, gone, forgotten. And it honestly pisses me the fuck off because it's so blatant. And that's the thing, is like, I can't help but watch this show and think, so none of the writers who have been hearing since season 1 of the Vampire Diaries that this show has a racial issue don't think it's suspicious that of Elijah's 5 girlfriends, only the black ones are dead, only the ones that are brown are dead. Those are the ones that really get, because like at this point in the originals, Elena, Catherine, they're not even a factor. So it's Haley and the other 3. So Haley gets to live and to be fine, but the other 3, they gotta go. They gotta die. It doesn't matter what their backstory was, even if they were kind of right about what they were doing, they have to die. And somehow it's Elijah's suffering that matters and not theirs. It's just this kind of bullshit that pisses me the fuck off about this show. Because I'll admit to you, The originals, I didn't want to get into it, but once I started watching it, I honestly really started to enjoy it. I enjoy the mythology. I like the characters. I think Elijah and Klaus and Freya, who's joined this season, are some of the better characters. And I like Marcel, even though he's a slave, basically, still, to the Mikaelsons. I enjoy the mythology, even though it's inconsistent as a motherfucker. Like, I mean, they make up shit like this because they don't really maintain any rules. So it's just all wibbly wobbly, magicy wagicy, and it's so frustrating when these things happen because it's just smack in the face. Because for the most part, you can enjoy this. It's a fun vampire show on the CW, semi-sexy. There's a love story every fucking season, even if it makes no sense. But it's there, it's entertaining. But then shit like this will happen, and I'll be like, why has it been, what, almost 10 years that this show has been on, and it's the same fucking problems if you combine the two series? Like, almost 10 fucking years this show has been on, and it's the same shit every single time. This rotation of non-white people who get to leave and come back and die and don't get to do anything significant in these series. And yet here I am watching this fucking show, and it's just like, why am I thinking about this show when the show clearly isn't thinking about me? And it frustrates me because it's always like, well, why don't you stop watching? Why don't they write better? Why don't they realize that you have a show that's based in New Orleans, and you can find black bodies to kill and snap their necks at the drop of a dime, but you can't find one to be a long-term regular besides Marcel and Vince, who gets to be Cammy's fucking cheerleading group? Really? Like, and this whole story was going on with the Divina and the magic stuff. You couldn't have had Vince come in and be like, hey, what's up? I'm the king of all these witches. Let me give some magic to you. Let me help out. No, it's basically like you can only have one Negro at a time. If Marcel is there, Vince can be there for like 2 seconds and he had to leave. They cannot both be there. And it is fucking obnoxious. They all have to die. And even the scene with him and Arya, like, in terms of plot and character beats, it was such an effective scene. And yes, it made sense for her to die. There was no way for Elijah not wanting to kill her and having Haley do it. That's a whole other thing in itself, because, you know, I don't think I need to really describe the dynamics of that and the problematics of that. But overall, it makes sense that Arya should die. This arc is over. This storyline is over. They want to start messing it up. And the reality is that the long-term consequences of Arya's death are 0. Because Gia died. They talked about it for a little while. Over it. Selene died. Over it. Doesn't matter how many people Klaus or Elijah love. If they die, they will find another girl to bang. That's just the way the story rolls. The issue is that Arya is one of many black people and many non-white people on this show who have been killed off, forgotten, destroyed, while the white character gets to live. The main people involved in this plot, who were Aurora and Tristan, are alive. She gets to live, but Arya gotta die. Can't have nothing. But I just have to say that, like, I will do another video on just women in general on the originals, because that's a whole nother can of worms to be opened. But it's just, this show has so much potential to be so much fun. To be like a super light Buffy. And even Buffy is terrible at race. But at least it didn't have as many black people in it that died in return. Whereas this show has so many non-white people who are there and a part of the story. But they all die. Or are servants. So it's worse. Fucking Elijah. You probably don't even like white women, but they just had to put him with one because it's the CW. Fucking can't stand this show. Oh well.